You are listening to Engage Arizona, Public Policy for Daily Life. In this episode, we speak with Sheryl Crosier, the mother of Simon Crosier, and the namesake of a new law that Governor Ducey recently signed. Sheryl tells the heartbreaking story of her short time with Simon and the devastating news that Simon had a do not resuscitate order put in his medical file without his parents' knowledge. Sheryl worked with Cap and state legislators this session to bring Simon's law to Arizona in hopes of sparing other families the same heartache. We do recognize and apologize for the poor audio quality of this episode. And now, here's Cindy Dahlgren.
Welcome to Engage Arizona. I'm Cindy Dahlgren. Sheryl Crosier joins me today to share her heartbreaking story, which she actually turned into potentially life-saving action in a number of states, most recently here in Arizona. We'll get to the new legislation here in a bit, but first a little background. Sheryl's baby boy Simon was born in September of 2010 and was diagnosed with trisomy 18 or Edwards syndrome. It is considered fatal, but some people have survived years, even decades, Sheryl has discovered. Thank you for joining us, Sheryl. Can you please start out by telling us a little bit about Simon's short life and your time with him, knowing he was going to struggle to live, and how you and your family spent the time with him?
Sure. First of all, thank you, Cindy. I appreciate your time, and I'm honored to be with you today. Simon was born September 7th, 2010, and for us, for our family, we know that God blessed us with a son. And even with Simon's bilateral cleft lip, he was our gift from God, and he was just absolutely perfect for our family. It was Simon's third day of life, and he was diagnosed, as you said, with trisomy 18, also known as Edwards syndrome. And for your reference, Down syndrome is trisomy 21. So Edwards syndrome, trisomy 18 is just the second most common to Down syndrome. And for too long, like you had mentioned, this condition of his, they would consider it a lethal anomaly, or they would call his condition, or children like Simon, incompatible with life, despite the evidence of others even living, like you had mentioned, surviving for months, years, and even decades. Trisomy 18 children do often require heart surgery, and we were scheduled to meet with a cardiac surgeon on December the 6th, 2010. So Simon remained in the hospital his whole life, and our lives revolved around him. My husband and I had two children before Simon, our son Samuel, who was born in 2003, and our son Sean was born in 2004. We had then experienced miscarriages after having our two boys, and it was then that we found out that we were pregnant with another boy. So clearly we were pretty excited to find out that we were having a boy, and we decided that his name was going to be Simon. So our boys were so excited. They spent so much time reading to him in the NICU and singing to him and just cuddling with him. And we were in constant attendance.
I'm sorry to interrupt. So you said that you were planning on having him get a heart surgery. So my understanding is that he was, you were expecting him to be prepped for that surgery, but then his oxygen levels dropped. Or tell me about what happened when you were getting ready for that surgery.
So Simon, as he neared 3 months of age, we clearly looked forward to getting his heart repaired, and it was tragedy that struck before the pre-scheduled, before the pre-surgery consult, which was on December 6th, which happened to be a Monday. Well, on December the 3rd, which was a Friday, Simon's oxygen levels began falling. We're told nothing can be done. And we're watching in disbelief as our child is taking his last breath inside this hospital that he's been a patient for so many months, and no code resuscitation was engaged. And we pleaded with the medical staff again and out, what can be done? Nothing can be done. So here we are, we're losing Simon. Where were those experts? We're in a level 3 NICU. There's no carts, there's no beeping monitors, and the only people that were panicking were my husband and myself. So absolutely nothing's done. And that morning, on December the 3rd, Simon died at 10:45 a.m. So, as you can imagine, our sorrow was unimaginable, but our agony was even compounded when the other hospital called. That Friday, he died to confirm his Monday appointment to fix his heart at the other hospital, and I had to tell him that my son won't be there because he died.
Oh, I can't imagine.
So, and then after that, after Simon's death, we call them Simon's special nurses. There were some really good nurses that he had that loved him and cared for him, but it was after he died that they said their hands were tied. And then we were given indications that we should start to examine Simon's chart, medical chart, its records. Well, at that time, it was about 3 weeks or so after he had died, and a friend of mine said, you want to write a book, just telling how special Simon is. And that's what I did. Like I said, God blessed us with a son. He didn't bless us with a syndrome, so I named his book Not a Syndrome, My Name is Simon. And so when we started going through records, we didn't believe it. That's when we found out the horrible truth. The DNR, the Do Not Resuscitate, was placed in his medical file.
And you didn't know about this, is that right? You were never told about this or talked to about it?
No, not at all. And he, it's something that was not discussed or we gave no consent to. But then we figured out this is why they stood around on that day, December the 3rd, and they did nothing for him. Because, if it was typical 3-month-old, like I mentioned, I have my 2 other children before that, there'd be doctors running down the hall to save their life.
Of course.
It would be ER moment or, and that it gets worse though, because we even discovered not just the DNR, but Simon was only getting comfort feeds.
And what exactly is that? Can you describe about how much that is?
Comfort feeds, by definition, is an insufficient amount of food for growth and development. It's not for nutrition. It was that basically Simon was being intentionally starved. My husband and I, we have never, ever have agreed to this. So here I am. I'm pumping breast milk, believing it's being fed to him through his NG tube, and it was only little itty bitty amounts. And now, I look back at his growth chart and his weight chart, and I always used to say, oh, it's because of the trisomy 18 that he's just going to be small, not going to gain weight. Yes, that is true. Children with trisomy 18 are typically small. However, when you spend 3 months with your child, you should see more weight gain. So they must have been looking at us like we were stupid. Because every little ounce we would get excited about. And it was nothing. What they were giving him was nothing. But as an example, the food denial, Scott, my husband, relayed that once he had been awakened at 4:40 a.m. by this nurse practitioner in the hospital, when Simon was fussing, and he was clearly irritated, and she calmly asked Scott, "So do you want me to give him morphine?" And Scott knew why that was not a good idea. Why would I give a tiny baby with heart problems this powerful drug? And, in hindsight, Simon was probably fussy because he was hungry and he was being denied the sufficient nutrition.
That must have made you desperately angry and helpless. And looking back, do you feel that they were keeping it a secret from you, or they just assumed you knew and didn't say anything to you? Or why wasn't anybody sharing with you why he was acting so hungry and not growing?
Right. No, they didn't share much at all with us. In fact, we really didn't see the doctors very often. They always, it seemed like, and I've heard this from other families, we were always the last with their rounds. So they'd come in, they'd listen to Simon's heart, and that was pretty much about it. But more his nurses that were with him most of the time. And, whenever, for instance, when Scott had been questioned about the morphine, he was like, "No," and he took him in his arms and he just rested him on our chest, on his chest, and he just, he comforted him, and Simon was fine, and he fell back asleep. But we were always asking for more from the doctors. Like, we had asked for a consult with a pulmonologist one time, because of Simon's breathing, and we thought, hey, if he needs something, whether it's a trach or what have you, we just want to have and we were denied a consult. Basically, no, not for Simon. That was a lot of what we heard, but never would I have thought that anybody could be that cold to not resuscitate your baby, and then on top of it, not be feeding them, and it just, anything that we questioned, it's a no, not for Simon, or just weird phrases, or they would say, "Oh, I don't know." We would get the "I don't knows." So we were very frustrated, but yet we still had hope, and we just fought and fought for him. But looking back, Simon was he fought his own battle with little, if not any medical, really any medical help.
What are your thoughts about how the doctors or the people who were in charge of his medical chart and the care that he would be given, how they saw Simon?
I would look back at that. Someone else decided that Simon's life had no value, that he was disposable. From that day 3 that he had the diagnosis, things just changed. That we wouldn't really see the doctors much. We'd be the last one on the rounds, and they just he was at the bottom of their list. And without our knowledge or consent, someone else decided to withhold care, administer medications, to hasten and order a DNR, a do not resuscitate, to finalize Simon's life. And, throughout Simon's life, like I said, Simon, of course, fought his fought, but we were fighting for him too, because I remember Scott many times saying to the doctors, "Well, what do you mean you don't know?" And one time Scott said, he goes, "You guys are like the weathermen, saying you don't know." He said, "If I said I don't know in my job, I'd be fired."
I know it must have been such a frustrating time, at that period. And now when you look back at and you have all the information and things start to come together, I think a lot of people at that point would have just, spent their life trying to get through it and get over it and get through the pain and heal. And I'm sure you guys have done a lot of that, but you've also taken this experience and changed things and turned things around. And, you have to relive this every time that you tell your story and that you go to different states and you work on this legislation. Tell me a little bit about that, about the recent victory here in Arizona and the importance of that legislation and the other states.
Right. Well, it wasn't until we were in a documentary called Labeled, and we found out that these hospitals have such things called futility policy, and basically that protects the hospitals and the doctors for basically making the decisions. So technically, they can do this. Morally and ethically, we know what they're doing is wrong by secretively speeding up the process of a life. And, it was just gut-wrenching to find out not just the futility policies, but that it's legal, it's common for physicians to withhold this care and without a parent's consent. It doesn't even matter if your child's 1 day old or if they're 17 years old. And it doesn't matter if they have trisomy 18 like my Simon. They could be in a coma or they could end up in have traumatic head injury. And any doctor in the United States can unilaterally issue a DNR order for them. And so we found out more and more through this documentary and through an organization called SOFT, which is Support Organization for Trisomy, that there are out there that have lost their minor children with these unilateral DNRs withholding care. So we started to ask the question, should it be legal? Should it be legal to withhold procedures, medications, food, water to hasten the death of a child without a parent's knowledge or permission? And should that be legal to put a DNR in a child's medical chart without asking the consent or, speaking with the parents? So that's where Simon's Law comes in. And Simon's Law says, no, it should not be legal. And, I can't bring my Simon back, but I want to make sure that no other parent or guardian of a minor child is ever stripped from their parental rights in determining their child's life. And I want to make sure that no other parent has to discover the horror that the very doctors that they trusted the life of their child with betrayed them and secretly determined that their child is right. In my opinion, no one loves their child more than a parent. And I believe that it's a parent's right to make those informed medical decisions. That's why the need for parental permission for these DNR orders also should extend to other children, those children without special needs. I mean, anyone could fall off a bicycle. Your 6-year-old could fall off a bicycle and end up in the ICU. You don't know that attending physician. You most likely, you probably never met them. Or 16-year-old could end up in a car accident. You could be the ones making the decision. So to protect children and parents, we have to stop this secret DNR, and we have to make that all our children are protected. And so when we first started this, back in Missouri, which hopefully is going to be right here in Arizona, Representative Kidd, he has persevered, and hopefully we're gonna see that our bill passed in Missouri. But when we had that victory in Kansas, which was amazing, in April 2017, and it was just Simon's legacy lives on, and we're going to make sure we protect the children in Kansas. And then South Dakota, Representative Deutsch, when he contacted me, and he was just like, we need this to protect us in South Dakota. And I'm like, Yes. And then, Arizona, my gratitude goes out to Senator Gray and Representative Nancy Bardo, and for the Center for Arizona Policy, and even Carrie Perez, who's in Arizona, who is Simon's Law Action Coordinator for me, and she, has been there testifying and working with the House and the Senate, and we are just grateful. And let's protect those children now in Arizona. And if we have to go state by state, that's what we have to do.
Do you see any pushback?
Do I see pushback? No, not so much. The only opposition that we get really is from hospitals, because, like I mentioned, these futility policies, they've been doing this since the early 90s, I found out. And people just didn't know about them. People still don't know about them. That's, why we need to get the word out. And that's really, it's mainly these hospital groups or hospital associations. Doctors don't like it because they feel like that's going to tie their hands when they feel that, they're not going to treat a child. However, we have many medical groups and doctors, such as Dr. Marty McCaffrey. He's a neonatologist, and he actually testified for Simon's Law. He's out of North Carolina, and he'll tell you, yes, this goes on. But you know what? Let's not give the doctors, all these doctors, a bad name, because there are so many good doctors out there. Unfortunately, we didn't have that that blessing. But my goodness, I would have driven to North Carolina to have Dr. McCaffrey treat my child. You would do anything, go to the end work for your children. But the other doctors who are in support of Simon's Law, and many nursing groups that are in support of Simon's Law, say, yes, this needs to be transparent. They know that this is happening, and like I had mentioned before, even with nurses, their hands are tied at times. So it's time to, come forward and take this, like Carrie Perez has said, and I can't remember if it was Senator, I'm not sure, one of the senators or representatives, this is a common bill. It really is. We shouldn't even, it shouldn't even have to be to the point where we should have to protect our rights, our parental rights, and our children by putting it into a law. But if that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do. And, I don't know if you know this, but if you know what the name Simon means, of course, we didn't really know this kingdom, but it actually means to be heard.
Wow.
And it's pretty interesting because, just with hearings and, different testimonies that we have.
Yes, Simon is still being heard and will be throughout the country, I guess, if you decide to go state by state. How can people find out more?
People can find out more. I would suggest going to Simon's Law Facebook page. We keep that updated with what is happening throughout, the United States. We also post pictures of sometimes, with just special needs children. And it's just one of those places where you can go and ask questions. You can send a message through to us through that page, and either myself or, like I mentioned, Carrie Perez, Simon's Law Action Coordinator, one of us will definitely get back to you as quickly as we can.
I appreciate your time today speaking with us, and hopefully we will see you soon. Thank you, Sheryl.
I look forward to it. Thank you, Cindy.